welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. Myself, Dave, and I am Associate Manager Marketing of Big Innovation Center, India. Today, we are presenting how blockchain is going to simplify and automate commercial transactions. Before we start, I just want to have before we get started, we just let me have a little housekeeping. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type into the question box of your control panel in GoToWebinar, and we will address this during the question and answer session at 5:50 p.m. So let me take an opportunity to introduce our moderator and expert speakers for today's session. In this session, we have our moderator, Mr. Jay, who is also known as Subburao Jayanti. He joined Big Innovation Center as Chief Strategic Officer in 2019. He is a thought leader who has assisted companies to reach new horizons that put them on par with the rapidly evolving innovative technology sector. He focuses on ideas that affect new age societal and sustainability challenges to be solved with innovative entrepreneurial responses to them. Mr. Jay specializes in corporate innovation, emerging technologies, disruptive innovation, new digital business models, and digital transformation. Mr. Jay is also the founder and CEO of Grids Advisory and Consulting, which nurtures startups and supports established corporate organizations in India and in Australia and New Zealand region. Now I would like to introduce our expert speakers for today's session. We have Mr. Fernando Santiago, who is from Big Innovation Center UK. He is the strategic leader of all parliamentary group on blockchain and the blockchain for government council. He possesses 12 years of experience in project management and technology application planning. He holds a master's in logistics and supply chains from Cranfield University and a master engineering in civil engineering from Alfonso Savio University, and he holds Bachelor of Engineering in Civil Constructions at Salamanca University, and also holds executive education from IESE Business Schools. And he is a certified Prince 2 practitioner. And I would also like to invite a very special guest speaker from IBM India, Mr. Anuj. Mr. Anuj is a visionary IT leader and blockchain evangelist working on leading technologies for the last 19 years. He has vast experience in IT solutions, designing and development, service delivery, process reengineering, account management, transaction, client management, etc. His achievements includes building Japan IoT in India from scratch and achieving 400 plus FTE in a short time. Mr. Anuj has a keen interest in blockchain technology and is an IBM certified blockchain consultant. He has successfully designed several blockchain applications uh, on Hyperledger and Ethereum platforms. He is also a blockchain coach and has trained hundreds of technology professions in their revolutionary technology. He is currently working on developing an end-to-end blockchain-based technology solution in medical domain and education sector. I welcome all our expert speakers and attendees and our moderator for today's session. Over to you, Mr. Jack.
Oh, uh, yeah, thank you, Dave, for your kind words and putting the perspective of today's webinar. Uh, I welcome all the participants who have shown interest in BIC, Big Innovation Center, India's webinar series. Some of you must have followed us over the last 3 months in our, the webinar series on artificial intelligence, which has been conducted over the last couple of months. Now, today, I'm, Big Innovation Center India is introducing you all to the concept of blockchain, which is one of our practice areas in Big Innovation Center, both in India as well as in UK, where predominantly we advocate and participate in creating as many as use cases. The societal challenges need to be resolved using the framework of blockchain. I have the proud privilege to have two eminent experts on the subject matter of blockchain. I welcome both of them, Mr. Anuj Garg of IBM India, who is a leading expertise and a researcher and a evangelist to put across, specifically on the blockchain perspective. Welcome you, Mr. Anuj, and thank you for participating.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Yeah, thank you. And I also, recognize my colleague from BIC UK, Mr. Fernando, who is a champion leading BIC initiatives back in UK with the UK Parliament in driving the adaptation of emerging technologies using blockchain framework for solving various societal problems and challenges. I think he carries immense practical, adaptable, experience in deploying the blockchain. Today, I think with the vast two different experts from the technology and the use case perspective, all the participants, all of us will have a enlightening session. So, not to really withstand, welcome you, Mr. Fernando.
Thank you very much, Jay. Thank you very much for having me today here. It's a real pleasure to try to bring the knowledge we have here in the London office to this web.
Thank you for your presence, Mr. Fernando. And as you all have might have followed our social media postings and our outreach to most of you, that today the main topic that we are going to focus and cover elaborately is on the blockchain technology and blockchain use cases. So we will start that. I have a question to both the expert panelists. I would like to know from you, Mr. Anuj Garg, how is blockchain going to simplify and automate commercial transactions per se in a larger context of deploying this framework? Can you give us your thoughts on that, Anuj?
Okay, so once again, thank you very much, Big Innovation Center and Jay sir, for giving me this opportunity. I think the question sets the right context with respect to the introduction of technology and why it is actually needed and what value it brings in to the society at large. So so there are three primary keywords in your question. One is simplification, second is automation, and third is the commercial transaction. So we need to look at a bit of a history of how the commercial transactions are typically processed. Okay, so in the last several decades we have seen the evolution of internet, and the internet is basically used for any kind of a transaction handling in our day-to-day life now, be it any kind of a messaging, be it any kind of a commercial transaction, be it banking, any transaction that you see. Most of those transactions are now processed on the on a layer of internet. But do we actually see some kind of a problem when we process a transaction on the internet? So there is a inherent problem that is there in the internet which is still not resolved, and the objective of blockchain technology is to resolve that problem. And that problem is how do we actually transfer a digital asset on the internet with the same level of trust, transparency that we have in a normal transaction. And because of this inherent issue of trust, transparency, we introduce various centralized authorities, just to say, like banks, like e-commerce websites, like your cab services. All these are basically service providers that sits in between and help the users to bring the kind of a trust and transparency that they expect in a system to do the commercial transactions today. So if you're transferring the money through your bank, then you are sure that it will reach to the second person, and if there is any problem, you can always reach out to the bank and sort out those issues. Similarly, when you are booking something on Amazon or eBay or any other e-commerce website, you know that you will get the item with the due quality that you are expecting. Can we do all this without having these intermediaries and eliminate the huge cost that we actually pay for these commercial transactions to happen today with the conventional internet, that we have. So blockchain technology basically answers this question. Okay, so the objective of the blockchain technology is to have any transaction of value. It can be a money-based transaction. It can be anything of value. The value can be, your patents are value, your any asset that you create. It can be music, it can be your health record, it can be your vote, it can be your land record. Anything that is of value you can transact over the internet without having the intermediaries is the value that the blockchain technology brings. And in order to introduce this value, it uses several technology related concepts, like we have this concept of distributed ledger, where your database is not limited to any central party. It is distributed among all the participants, and when it is distributed among all the participants, there needs to be some kind of a consensus or an agreement between all the participants to process your transaction, or to basically they have a say that okay, this is valid, this is not valid, instead of relying on any one company. So the entire network works together collaboratively using the consensus algorithms. And then it also has the state of art cryptography. So whenever you send any message, it is digitally signed. You have this concept of PKI, public private keys, certificates. And then you also have this concept of hash. Hash is basically a mechanism by which you can encrypt your information and you can secure any amount of data in a single 256-bit string, and that can be used to secure your information for a very long period of time. So these are some of the technology enablers that blockchain brings in a conventional internet, which allows you to do the commercial transactions without having these intermediaries and the burden that they bring onto the table. So when you do, say for example, a money transfer from one country to another, today it takes several days, and you end up paying 10 15 20% of fees. All that can be eliminated with the blockchain technology. It can be done on a click of a button. So this obviously simplifies and automates, because it also allows you to do the digital transactions with the help of a software, and we call that software as a smart contract. So the smart contract brings the ability to automatically transfer the digital assets with the help of a code that with the help of a codification of your physical contracts. Okay, so your physical contracts may say that okay, if you are applying for insurance, you need to have these 5 things ready. Okay, currently all this is manually checked, and then there is always a chance of corruption, there is always a chance of manipulation there. The smart contracts eliminate all these things and allows you to do the transactions with the help of the digital robots that are created on the blockchain layer, which automates these transactions as and when you need to process them. So this is a brief, answer to a large question. I can speak many minutes and hours about this, but yeah.
No, we appreciate Mr. Anuj. In a nutshell, you have enumerated the technology and its applications and the possibilities of greater value that it will bring in by introducing transparency, openness, and immutable, repair to the transaction history. Because these are the 3 things that what you have said. Whatever the transaction happens on the blockchain, it will stay permanent, and one cannot fudge on that, which is very important point that you brought up. And you also mentioned it's a transparency of the peer-to-peer. Now, all of us mostly in India, we all know torrents, BitTorrents to download movie clips, audio clips. So we know a little bit about torrents and then BitTorrents, but well, we will elaborate that. Thank you very much, and may I request Mr. Fernando to really give his insights on the question. Mr. Fernando.
Thank you very much, Jay, for the introduction, and Anu, thank you very much for the work on blockchain technology. I would like to bring today here my perspective on the blockchain from my expertise, which is the supply chain, from the supply chain of view. now I think nowadays the supply chains are much more important, or even are much more in the media, with the COVID-19 and all the problems to distribute even normal PPEs or normal masks to distribute a vaccine in the future. But let's try to understand how blockchain can simplify and automate commercial transactions from a supply chain perspective. Let's try to understand a simple supply chain. For example, let's say to bring a mask from China to Europe involves thousands of transactions every day, thousands of companies, thousands of intermediaries. That all of them are going. They have to record their records in a database. No, all of them have their own database. In this case, we are going to call this database ledger. No. And the problem of each company having their own layers means that each company have their own version of the truth. I mean, the own version of the truth of the same product, or even the same service. And sometimes these different versions doesn't match each other, and then we have problems and we have inefficiency on the supply chain. Blockchain technology or distributed ledger technology, I am going to use the both terms in this talk indifferently, and although there is some difference between blockchain and distributed ledger technology, is what the name of the distributed ledger technology say is a distributed ledger, a unique ledger that all companies and actors in the supply chains have the same version of the truth. I mean, all the companies, all the actors, all the intermediaries have the same version of the truth. Why is possible to have this? How is possible to have this version of the truth? This is possible due to the principles of blockchain. The principle, as Anu mentioned, the principle of immutability. Once a transaction is recorded in a ledger, in a blockchain ledger cannot be modified, and with the principle of the distributed, all the members of a supply chain or a blockchain networks have the same ledger. With the principle of peer-to-peer transactions, as Anu mentioned, we don't need anymore a third party that made the transaction. I mean, we can do a transaction peer-to-peer without a third party to validate this transaction. That is a really, as Anu mentioned, this is a really huge advance when we are speaking about moving money or moving goods across border, and as well computational logic in terms of the smart contracts and the smart contracts. Then basically that is the way blockchain is going to simplify the transactions. It's going to take several databases, several data silos that are in the supply chains in different companies, and going to break these silos and bring just one database for all the members of the supply chain. At the moment, we are seeing these applications in the supply chain. We are seeing these applications, but mainly we are seeing these applications on the cryptocurrency side. As most of our attendees will know or would know, the Bitcoin is blockchain. I mean, blockchain is not Bitcoin, but Bitcoin is blockchain. I mean, Bitcoin is the foundation of the blockchain technology, and for me, although it sometimes is not have the best press, is the best example of that blockchain technology works, and blockchain technology is here. I mean, is here to stay. It's a system where we transfer access and transfer value between peers, and never has been hacked in the last 10 years. That is the best example that blockchain technology brought. But coming back to the main question, what is going to bring this technology to the commercial transactions? Mainly, as mentioned, we are going to have a single ledger for all the members. Then it's going to be transparency, and it's going to be data reliable. I mean, when we are speaking transparent, one of the biggest problems now the supply chains has in the world is in terms of transparency. I mean, since a client in Europe from a supplier in Asia and the other way around, there is no visibility of the whole pipe of the supply chain, because, as mentioned before, the data is in data silos. What is going to bring blockchain is going to be able to break these data silos and bring the full visibility to the full supply chain. On the top of this, as Anu mentioned, we can automatize these transactions. This transaction can be automatized with smart contracts. At the moment, the use of smart contracts, at least in Europe, is no a great use for, let's say, regulatory issues. but it's kind in the future. I think it's gonna have a huge potential automatization the supply chain. And basically for the supply chain, it's gonna be synchronization. You will be able to synchronize your producer thousands of miles away with the end user. You are going to be able to bring supply and demand in the same page. Now it's quite difficult to match supply and demand. You are going to remove the frictions for the supply chain. We are going to remove thousands of stamps you need to bring a good from paper stamps. I mean paper-based stamps to bring a goods to some geographical areas. For me, that is the main advantage of blockchain in my main area, which is the supply chain.
Very okay. Thank you, Fernando, for giving a different perspective and more so to elaborate on the supply chain. You also have mentioned very pertinent technological changes which are happening because of the advent of internet, as Anuj also mentioned, because the enterprises are now going global. When the enterprise is going global, they're not only going to deal within themselves, but they have to really interact with external parties. So we have seen in the evolution of technology, intranets are being utilized in the post internet, pre-internet era. Then most of the applications were deployed on a client server architecture. But when the advent of internet has happened, it facilitated everybody to be instantaneously get connected wherever you are placed for the expansion and scalability of transactional ability. But however, cloud enabled enterprise architectures are also silos, as Fernando mentioned, because all corporations want to keep the confidential data of whether it could be inventories, it could be their financial transaction, or it could be their employee transactions, or to their intellectual property rights. Because Big Innovation Center very surprisingly advocates open innovation 2.0. So Fernando, you know that we are expanding the idea of open innovation rather than closed innovation. So correlating that point, blockchain in a way is going to expand the possibility of conducting and transacting between two parties. It could be an enterprise to a consumer, or it could be a consumer to consumer, or it could be an organization to organization. As both of you have mentioned, the credentials of the blockchain is to ensure transparency and decentralization of the data availability and immutability of the data transactions which are carried within the chain of participants. So it's very interesting. I think, as we move forward with the session today, we would like to really make the participants also to just give their views by conducting a small poll. Dave, can we have the first poll question so as to move to the next sub-theme? Yeah, may I request all the participants to quickly, if you can cast your opinion on this poll question for next 2 minutes. We request you to participate in this. We can publish the yeah, as both the experts have indicated, 85% of the constituent participants have given a favor of banking and finance. So most of them do understand blockchain more relates to Bitcoin, I believe. That's very interesting. And definitely people also have said education is also an emerging area as equivalent as supply chain. Okay, there are no takers for healthcare and manufacturing. Very interesting. Okay, Dev, thank you. So both the panelists, I think, our informed, participants have already listened to you very carefully. Both they all have understood the usefulness of blockchain in deploying the transactional oriented transactions for the currencies and finance. And people also have mentioned about education, which is very interesting. I'm not able to really see people have gone to healthcare, but I think both our experts also will throw up their expertise on understanding how blockchain can bring in very useful applications for healthcare. Okay, I think uh, before we address these opinions, I would like to delve a little more technically to Mr. Anuj as well as Fernando. So I have a question. Both of you can able to really answer, but I request Anuj to address it in the beginning. How blockchain, in your view, as an application is modeled and how it processes the transaction? For the benefit of all of us, if you can able to elaborate a little bit on the application modeling and how it processes the transactions, Mr. Anuj.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, Jasper. And I think before we reach out to the application modeling and processing of transaction, we need to understand that, how do we choose a blockchain platform? Because the application modeling and the creation of a network development all depends on the kind of platform that you are working on. And blockchain technology has got numerous platforms, to select with. So the first question that you generally ask whenever you are developing a blockchain solution, is it a right blockchain solution or not? So there are certain decision trees that you go through, like, do you have multiple organizations? Do you have a problem of trust and transparency? Do you really need an immutable database? If you conclude that you need a blockchain based application, then you also need to conclude whether you need a public blockchain so that your transactions are visible to everyone, or you need a permission or a private blockchain for an organization where there are limited set of people who can actually view the transactions and contribute to the overall processing of blockchain. So post the selection of your platform or a public or a private blockchain, then you select specific platforms like Hyperledger Fabric, Hyperledger Sawtooth, Coda, Quorum, Ethereum, multi-chain. Lot many platforms are available, and each one is having their own distinguished identity and features. Okay, so I'll not go into the details. How do you select the right platform for yourself? But once you select the platform, the next step is to create the network or a business network for your platform. So you need to select that how many people will interact on this network. So what will be the number of nodes? Okay, how will you identify, or how will you basically establish the identity of the users who will use these platforms? And then you write your application once you define your network. So there are several components of an application modeling. So first thing is that you write your backend, or we call it as a smart contract. A smart contract is basically where you write all these transaction processing functions. So for example, there is a transaction that you are basically claiming your insurance, and so this goes into a transaction into a smart contract. A smart contract will verify whether you have the right insurance policy, whether you are claiming the right amount, whether you are hospitalized at the authorized the hospital chains or not. All these kind of things which are generally manually verified and subject to any kind of a corruption, your smart contract will be verifying all those things and will be processing that transaction. So you will generally have a getter function, you will have a setter function which will write to the ledger or read to the ledger, etc. So that will be the first backend code or a backend application that you will write. And then there will be other components like your front-end application, which can be a desktop application or a mobile wallet application, any kind of an application that allows users to use this blockchain platform. And then there can be events and other external applications which are connected, like you can have the connections with your conventional SAP, ERP, Oracle systems to the blockchain. So talking about the application modeling, you can have several components to that. One is your front end, another is your back end, and then there are events and third party applications, connectors to all those kind of stuff. And from the transaction processing functionality is there, it's generally part of your smart contract, where you write all those processing functions and also write the functions to update your blockchain ledger.
Yeah, thank you. And one point which I would like to really know from you, Anuj, is these platforms are different because they use a different algorithm to build the platform, like SHA 225 or a standardization, because BIC back in UK also participates in advocating the frameworks and the technology adaptation, and also try to establish a governance structure so that it can be deployable, scalable, and globally it can be used. So can you just give a just hint of what do you mean by different platforms, maybe for the benefit of all the participants?
Yeah, so as you rightly mentioned, sir, there are some platforms which are using a particular type of cryptography algorithm or a particular hashing algorithm. The primary difference in these chains are, they have different notions of consensus. Especially if you are on a public platform, you will need a very strong consensus algorithm so that nobody can cheat the system. Okay, so you introduce algorithms like proof of work, which is highly CPU concentric. And if you go to a permission ledger space, then you need more focus on establishing the right identity and security of your data. What you need to share with whom, how can you protect your data. That becomes much more critical in case of a permission ledger. And then within the permission ledger also, the kind of industry you are targeting. So for example, if you're targeting the financial industry, maybe CODA might be more useful. If you are designing a inter country payments, maybe Ripple might be more useful. So there is some kind of a niche space in each and every implementation, and based on your requirement, you can pick any of these platforms and start your development.
Yeah, to just simplify the understanding to all the participants also, I think we are all more used to download BitTorrents, the movie clips which are, used to be whether authorized or unauthorized, used to be circulated in the peer-to-peer network from the European countries. So in a way, BitTorrents are also the first generation blockchain framework.
Yeah, BitTorrent and Napster, these are all attempts to have a peer-to-peer connectivity, between multiple participants in the internet. But if you are a user of BitTorrent, or if you have actually used these systems, you will always find a problem of trust, transparency, security. You don't know what you are actually downloading, whether it's a malware virus or is it real real file that you are actually looking for.
Yeah, you have rightly said it hogs the power of the CPU, so that it will become a limitation to the user detrimental. Now, those early foundations of trying to share among the right group of peers has been evidently experienced by most of us. You rightly said, secrecy and privacy are also very important transactions nowadays. So henceforth, the migration has took place. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
I request Fernando to give his viewpoints on blockchain transactions, and then how it processes the transactions and how the application, in your view, can be modeled.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jay, and thank you very much, Anut, for the words on the technology. I mean, I think what's in the technology part where Anu was really clear. I think I have really few more than to add. Know how blockchain works. And understanding blockchain as an enabled technology that allow multiple separate legal parties to share a single version of the data, and keep the data sync between them. The technological part is how Anu explained. No, I mean, I think I can explain more, but we have to take in consideration, I mean, from our research in Big Innovation Center and in London, we have to take in consideration that the technology is not just modeled by the technology. I mean, it's modeled, there are another force that model the technology. In the case, for example, in our case in the UK, where we are the hub, let's say, for Europe of investment on blockchain, where more than the 50% of the blockchain investment in the region in Europe is here in the UK. I mean, the UK accounts more than for the rest of Europe together. There are another force. One of them is the investment. No, I mean, as much as investment you have in a sector, you can get better use cases, and you can the blockchain is going to be modeled in one way. Another force or another driver we consider when we are speaking about modeling blockchain is the regulations. No, I mean, at the moment, for example, in the UK, we have a lack of regulations. No, I mean, there is a kind of uncertainty with the blockchain industry in the financial sector and in the supply chain sector, or in a sector where blockchain is implemented, about the regulation. No, nowadays the UK government is trying to work in a regulation for digital assets because it's really neat. No, contrarily to another innovation areas, in this case, the industry is asking for more and more regulations to be able to develop their product. So the current lack of regulatory really is, the current lack of a regulatory framework is really a barrier on the development of the blockchain and the model of the blockchain. And as well as following the Anu's point, we consider that scalability and interoperability and sustainability of the blockchain is going to as well model the type of blockchain chosen. And as well, looking for the private sector, and looking when a company approach to a blockchain supplier to get a blockchain application, we think governance is one of the main decisions they have to do when they have to choose an application. As Anu mentioned, the type of consensus mechanism, the type of blockchain. If you are going to go for a public blockchain, if you are going to go for a private blockchain, choose the type of blockchain, choose the rights of the blockchain. Because although blockchain could bring transparency, as mentioned before in the previous point, it also can bring opacity to the supply chains, or even other sectors. Because the visibility rise is no matter of the technology. Technology allows you to see most of the transactions, but when a network is set up, you can cut this right to certain participants of the network. Then the governance model, I think they are gonna have a huge influence on how blockchain is gonna be modeled. Process transactions. I mean, I think it's clear. Unique ledger for everyone. Transactions are on the ledger, and you can automate that transaction, as we mentioned before, with smart contracts. As mentioned before, we have, at least in the European region, we have a small problem with smart contracts is there is no regulation at the moment. We are claiming for a regulation in smart contracts. What's happening if a smart contracts go wrong? Who is responsible? Who has the accountability for that? The developer, the company who pay for the smart contract. These questions is what we are trying to solve here. And the only way to solve this is to creating an ecosystem around blockchain, where you can bring academia, you can bring business leaders, and you can policymakers to work in the same page, in the same ledger, like a blockchain technology. It's like collaboration. You are going to model the blockchain in a collaborative way. this is not a technology that can be implemented in an isolated way in a company. No, like it might you can do with artificial intelligence. No, you are responsible for the procurement department of a company. You are able to buy artificial intelligence solution, implement it in your company, and that's it. Blockchain is not, it's not going to work in that way. I mean, blockchain, you need to put your collaborators, your stakeholders, even your competitors in the network if you want to get the full advantage of the network.
Yeah, no, we definitely understand your observations in implementing the framework to a larger cause in the UK society. Definitely, yeah. All technologies have evolved from a starting point, and today, we are in the advent of using the emerging technologies. So I think blockchain will also get simplified. See, one small observation that I have that all of us can benefit to understand. When we do word processing using Microsoft Word, and a team of people going to really collaboratively work on changes on the Word document. In the earlier cases, we used to really send the same copy of the Word document to multiple people multiple times with document control in action, and annotating the document in a kind of repetitive manner. And it consumes quite a lot of delay in completing a task. Now that we have seen grown from that stage of Microsoft Word to Google Doc. I think most of us are very convenient using Google Doc. Today, if you open a Google Doc and all the collaborators, if they have the permission, they can, in near real time, can able to edit, modify, add, and delete in a kind of transparent and instantaneously. Yeah, I think it's also an underlying technology of a simple blockchain within a platform. What do you, both of you, say about it? Because all of our participants may correlate their experience of using Google Docs as well as Microsoft Word. Anuj?
Yes, sir, absolutely. These, online platforms that, various companies are providing, like Google, Microsoft, everything, is, some form of a decentralization,
Yeah.
of the conventional software. Because you are getting it on internet, you are getting as many features as you get, by installing the application, you're getting it for free, and you can collaborate with different users, although, you cannot establish this as a blockchain, because essentially you're not doing any transactions or any value transfer, through these assets. But, the concept of distributed ledger, the concept of, decentralizing the internet, which is the core foundation of blockchain technology, also exist in these softwares as well.
Yeah. So, and one more, sorry, Fernando. Yeah,
No, I think what's the analog with Google Docs, no, for example, is a really good analogy in terms of distribution. No, is in terms of bringing from a centralized system, like as is it used to be the Word. No, it's centralized in your computer and your laptop. No, you bring this document to everyone to collaborate in the same document. The only thing is Google Docs, if you want to end the analogy, is still being centralized. No, it's a centralized document on Google. No, Google have the rights over that document, even or the owner of the document have the rights. No, can close the visibility or even can close the edits to some of the participants. In the blockchain, it works a little bit different.
Maybe you can consider that as a public blockchain in a collaborative manner, if not a private blockchain for a document edit.
Yeah, it's a good way. I mean, it's a really good example to understand how distributed collaboration will work. No, it's a really good example.
Yeah, even I want to really correlate the technology framework of blockchain to a possibility of connecting the Airbnb kind of a platform can directly go from the customers to the owners without not having the platform of Airbnb altogether. It could be a possibility, isn't it, Anuj?
Absolutely, sir. It is pretty much possible. But see, at the same time, we really need to distinguish that what we qualify to call as a blockchain network, right? So
Yeah.
there you can find multiple examples of the inherent technologies that blockchain use. Like distributed ledger is one technology. You will find that whenever you use internet, you inherently also use cryptography. You also use hashing in different forms. But when you use it collaboratively, it gives you the very solid foundation and power to create a system where you can transfer the asset from one node to another with the same level of trust and transparency that you generally want your intermediary to process. So that's yeah, so that's the power of which blockchain brings onto the table.
Sure. So I'm trying to really relate to the applications which we are day to day we are used to using, like Uber for the example. Uber could be another possibility that can be disrupted very quickly by changing the technology framework. So where all participants also can correlate their experiences of underlying technology may not be in a complete sense, but a kind of crude sense to understand how blockchain transparently conduct a smart contract. Even Uber, the owners of the cars and then the riders can get into a contract without not having the Uber application itself. If that could be a possibility, maybe very soon Uber might be having a challenge. I don't know. Yes, Fernando.
Yeah, following your example about Uber or Airbnb, I mean, if you bring blockchain to this kind of platforms, you are going to have two main impacts. One of them, you are going to remove the needs of a third party, in this case, Airbnb. I mean, you can deal directly with your client or with your customer. That is the first thing. The second thing is, imagine, for example, when we are speaking about hotels, you have a hotel in Airbnb platform. You have a hotel in Booking platform. You have a hotel in Agora, platform, with different reviews. But at the end of the day, it's the same hotel. Where you have different reviews in Agora, different reviews in Booking, and different reviews in another platforms. What it can bring blockchain, for example, one of the use cases I have came across is to bring the same reviews, I mean, the same database, a distributed database for the reviews of the same hotel in any single platform. I mean, what means that? Means when you are leaving a platform, I mean, I have my hotel now in Booking, I don't want to work anymore with Booking. I can take my reviews with me. I mean, the data belongs to me. I take my reviews with me for the next platform. Because the reviews is under my digital identity, let's say, under the digital identity of the hotel, instead of being centralized on a platform like a Booking or Airbnb. For me, it's the two main examples when you are applying blockchain in what is called the gig economy, in Airbnb, so Uber or whatever.
Yeah, true. I mean, it's like it is going to be a first step to really see even the existing models of the gig economy is going to be transformed or going to be disrupted by deploying and using the blockchain in the near future. Very good. I think all of us agree for that. Then, yeah, we will have a 1 minute another poll from our patient audio, participants to know. Dave, can you run the poll question now before we go to the next? Yeah, thank you. So I'm putting a clock of 1 minute. Yeah, all participants, can you just give your viewpoint? Yeah, another 30 seconds more. Yeah, another 20 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Then, oh, yeah. Yeah, good. Thank you, all the participants. So, as like earlier, most of the participants' viewpoint that blockchain framework is more viable in carrying out financial transactions and also compliance, regulatory compliance. Very good to know about it. Thank you very much. Yes. Yes, Dave, thanks. So now that we have seen most of our informed audience are more leaning towards blockchain applications, more towards the financial management, financial transactions, because we all are aware of Bitcoin at large, Anuj and Fernando. Yeah. Now, I think because this kind of series of questions, because both the experts are so knowledgeable, I have limitations of asking what questions next. Okay, but I want to really take this beginning with a last question to both of you. Fernando, you can start. In your view, how will blockchain evolve in the future? How will blockchain evolve in the future?
Thank you very much for this difficult question, Jay. I think this is usually the question in all the webinars we have, and we try to guess the future. I mean, first of all, we have to understand we are in the early stage of blockchain. We are in the internet of the 90s. I think so few people or so big visionaries in the 90s could understand what are the real potential of internet. And I think it's happened exactly the same on blockchain. Nowadays we can see really good application, or the area where most developed is blockchain is the financial area. I mean, cryptocurrency, digital assets, and now we start to see many applications in decentralized finance. I think in the next year we are going to see this. We are going to see this development, and we are going to reach this plateau of productivity. According to Gartner, we are now in the peak of expectation. In the many of the blockchain application. For me, on my point of view, of course, finance is going to be one of the main areas where it's going to be developed. We have to take in account that the software of the main banks that is sitting on the servers of the bank is writing in a language that was writing in the 50s. I mean, I think applying blockchain to the banking sector and financial sector is gonna improve the productivity and the efficiency of the banking system. When we are speaking about remittance, I mean, moving money across borders. We have a technological solution in front of us. Is Bitcoin. You can move money with seconds from one border from one country to another country in the world with really low fees in comparison with the banking system. We have as well as application in the supply chain. We can synchronize the whole supply chain. We can bring trust to the supply chain. I think with the globalization at the end of the 20th century and beginning of the 21st century, the complex of the supply chains have increased dramatically. I mean, we have in few years, in the 90s, we have tripled number of enterprise working worldwide. I mean, blockchain have the opportunity to simplify again this, to simplify, to understand the provenance of the products, to understand the qualities of the products are the right qualities. How the right qualities they tell to you. We are facing problems in, let's say, in the pharmaceutical sector, where we have problems with fake medicines. We can solve that problems with blockchain.
Yeah.
But coming back to the question that you mentioned before in terms of healthcare and COVID, I think that is going to be a great area. In terms of vaccination, hopefully we have the vaccine, in a few months, who is going to be vaccinated? How do you know this person has been vaccinated? I can tell you my personal experience with a yellow fever vaccine. 2 years ago, I have to go to Nigeria to a conference, and they asked me for a yellow fever vaccine. I record at that time I was once in Mozambique, and I put that vaccine. It was crazy to me to find out if I got the vaccines or I didn't get the vaccines at the time, because The record I had was a paper, was a small paper where it was writing. What, honestly speaking, after the travel to Mozambique, I lost. I have to call to the system. I have to call to the hospital. Even the hospital didn't have the database. They have in another database. I have to call another database. At the end of the day, I put the yellow fever vaccine again because I didn't know if I get it or not. That is going to happen with COVID.
Yeah, true. I think
blockchain have the potential to bring transparency and to bring all these synchronized database around them.
Yeah, that's a very clear example. Healthcare is one of the chief constituents that blockchain can endure to change. Yeah, I'll take Mr. Anuj's point of view. Then we'll go to the participants for their questions. Yeah, Mr. Anuj.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So, so what I feel as a blockchain evangelist, obviously, is that blockchain technology is going to drive the future of transactions, specifically the commercial transactions. But even if you don't believe me, you can see the reports that are available in the market, from the Gartner, from Market and Market. So, blockchain technology currently is growing at the rate of 80% year on year. Okay. And it will continue to grow like this till 2030 at least. So that's the rate in which this technology is growing. Accordingly, the number of jobs are getting generated. Accordingly, the entrepreneurship opportunities are getting generated. Accordingly, more and more products and the applications are also getting in the market. Although we still don't see blockchain as a household thing, the way we see Bluetooth and other technologies. So when I started 20 years back, Bluetooth was at the same stage where blockchain is today. So, but now I think next 10, 15, 20 years, it will become a household thing. The way you do the transactions today with your mobile wallets, you will be doing it on a blockchain platform, even though you might not be knowing what is running underneath, but your transactions will be getting processed through the blockchain technology. It's going to be more than 23 billion market by 2023 with 10% of the world's GDP on blockchain technology. These are the realistic figures. More and more countries are opening up with cryptos, with the adoption of digital currencies. Indian government is also at a stage where they are forming the policies through Niti Aayog and in a process of legalizing the usage of cryptocurrency, and we might actually in the times to come see a crypto rupee kind of a thing coming up in India, which will be a direct replacement of a fiat currency that we use today. So many more things in pipeline, many vast projections, and I'm pretty sure that most of it will come true. Fernando already covered the COVID-19, although is a major issue around the world, but it brings a lot of opportunity for a blockchain for a blockchain person, because when you cannot step out of your house, there is an opportunity to digitalize the transactions that you generally do physically. There is more need of trust and transparency, especially in the funds that you give for the COVID-19, especially in the medicines that you distribute for COVID-19. And as Fernando mentioned, who got the vaccine, who did not got the vaccine. All these kind of transparency related things can be really resolved using the blockchain technology.
Yeah, truly, both of you have really touched upon the current pandemic as a biggest challenger to adopt blockchain as an underlying technology to solve and make it more transparent and legitimately viable and what I have seen in the early 2000s, the entire European nation, when they are forming the European Union, they have come with a concept called nations without borders, meaning, the bloc of the entire European Union want to really have nations without borders. When such kind of a initiation happens, I think, flexibility of, as Fernando and you, Mr. Anuj, have mentioned, the possibility of an intermediary is going to be collapsed. It's not going to be only limited to the banking and financial related transactions, but also more so to do with human beings. And today, I think all of us agree that UN, under their SDG goals, they want to really see the entire humanity on the earth will have to have digital identity. There are
Absolutely.
I believe, almost 3.2 billion people don't have a digital identity. And I think blockchain is one of the most plausible platforms technologically that it can bring the entire humanity into one unified platform to make people to travel, make people legitimately eligible who they are. I
Right.
think, yeah, it's a very, very interesting, as you said, Anuj, 20 years ago, Bluetooth was a unknown, reality. But now today, without Bluetooth, we can't really just work with anything else. So
Yeah.
definitely very soon, I think, in the next decade or so, blockchain is going to be a kind of commodity that we will experience in every transaction. Not only the financial transaction, but beyond financial transactions, the people, transact between two people will have a underlying framework called blockchain. Well, I would like to really pose the last. Now we've opened the Q&A for the participants to ask. So we are running short of time. We have overshot. So quickly, I may request the participants, if you have any questions to ask the panelists, please type it. I'll give 1 minute and then we will start with it. See, even majority of the participants can also really understand about the healthcare opportunities, Anuj. That is
Yeah.
a very immediate and imminent possibility of deploying blockchain, apart from financial transactions. Both of you have
Absolutely.
agreed. Yeah.
So, the healthcare sector has seen a lot of horizontal growth. You see a lot of new innovations with respect to medicines, with respect to testing procedures, labs,
Yeah.
coming up. But the medical industry is far behind, in the vertical growth. So they are not
Yeah.
using the technology, especially the IT technology, the way they should be using. We still get the paper based prescription from most of the doctors. Okay.
Yeah.
And we generally, when we move from one hospital to another, we always carry this baggage of prescriptions, from hospital to hospital that are not primarily accepted by the other chains as well. So a
Yeah.
need for digitalization of your medical record, a
Yeah.
blockchain based digitalization of a medical record that is interoperable, that gives the complete control to the patient or the user of the system in sharing his information with doctors, that also allows a seamless insurance claim without any kind of a manual work, and
Yeah.
waiting till the end to get discharged and settling your claims. Also, it also basically inculcate the research organizations directly fetching the data from the blockchain layer and doing their research without manually collecting information from different
Yeah.
users. So
Yeah.
many use cases do exist in the hospital or medical domain, and
Yeah.
I think the government of India has recently announced a blockchain-based health ID card for every Indian. So, which is a major initiative from government of India.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Yeah, there's a couple of questions which I have. I have limited time, but I would like both the panelists to, Mr. Mahesh Krishnan has asked, what is the view of both of you experts on the future of cryptocurrencies, especially the Bitcoin? I go with Anuj first and then Fernando. Yes.
Yeah, I think the market trend of Bitcoin itself suggests the future, right? And from in 10 years, from zero to almost $20,000, so it tells that what people think about it. So the cryptocurrencies for sure, is going to get the way of life. The digital currencies are going to get are the future of the digital currencies across the globe. Bitcoin being the first one and the most established one will continue to remain on top. Okay, but with the future, it will require some future upgrades, especially when the quantum computing comes into the picture. All these kind of newer algorithms come into the picture. Bitcoin will need to upgrade itself to the new standard so that it can continue to remain secure, for all the users. It might also be seen that like Ethereum is adopting a new consensus algorithm which is much more lightweighted, proof of stake. Similarly, Bitcoin might also need to adopt some newer consensus algorithms to make it much more simpler. But yes, it will remain on top and it will remain widely adopted throughout the world, is what I see.
Very good. Yeah. How about you, Fernando? The way you look at it, because London happens to be the capital of financial transactions of the world after New York. And as you said, there's quite a lot of traction needed for all the banking sector and the financial sector to really qualify. So, what are your views?
I think absolutely agree with Anu that not sure about Bitcoin, but the cryptocurrencies are the future. No, the cryptocurrencies are here to remain. Not really sure about independent cryptocurrency or community cryptocurrency like a Bitcoin, or let's say central bank cryptocurrencies. Like for example, like the central bank of China is trying now to implement. For me, Bitcoin, as mentioned before, is the best example of the blockchain application. But Bitcoin at the moment, on my point of view, is not a currency. I mean, as Anu mentioned, we start with a Bitcoin with a value of nothing, and now have 20,000 pounds to almost $20,000 value. With that kind of volatility, it cannot work as a currency. I mean, now the people is using Bitcoin as an investment instrument, investment tool. It's a pure financial tool. It's not a way to pay. You cannot get even if you want to get your salaries in Bitcoin. I mean, in March, Bitcoin was 3,000.
Yep, I know.
Now,
see, we had
8 months later, it's almost 18,000. I mean,
correct.
The essence of the currency is absolutely lost at the moment. I mean, so I don't know if it's going to be Bitcoin or it's going to be another cryptocurrency, but for sure, in 10 years' time, we will operate in cryptocurrencies. I mean, I think the fiat model is a bit old-fashioned at the moment. Each country having his own currency, I think is not going to be anymore in place.
We are getting into a different terrain altogether. I think in our next series of webinars that we are going to pursue every month on blockchain, I think we can delve more in detail about specific topics. I have another two quick questions from the participants. I think this is needed to be taken up. Sorry for the delay. One very important question was asked by Vikas Chawla. This is how blockchain is helping subrogation, especially on the insurance carriers to legally pursue a third party. Anuj, this is a very interesting point. Worldwide insurance companies are really faltering, and then this is a very valid point. So your views, Anuj and Fernando. His question was how blockchain is helping in subrogation.
Yeah. So again, because insurance also relates with the financial sector, so obviously blockchain has a lot of use cases with respect to the insurance sector as well. Now, the main problem that happens, when you are claiming your insurance is that, when you actually purchase your insurance, what documents or, what credentials you actually provide to the insurance company vis-a-vis, the checks that they do when you actually claim the insurance, right? And if that does not match, or if there is any kind of a discrepancy, you generally end up not getting the claims. Now, how the blockchain actually resolve this issue is because when you originally submit your document, or when you originally submit your records through the blockchain there, it goes as a undisputable data which nobody can challenge later, right? So the insurance companies have no legality to challenge it if it is coming through the blockchain layer, because it, initially they have to be in the consensus framework to authorize your transaction before they actually give you any kind of an insurance policy. The second thing which is also a major use case of insurance is the micro insurance policies that blockchain enables. So you need not buy your insurance policies for the whole years. So if you drive your car only 60 days in a year, why do you need to buy for 365 days? You can just enable it when you want, you can just disable it when you want, and you can accordingly, give the payments. So that's another very wonderful use case, which can be done through the blockchain.
That's good. Thank you. I think this explanation, and Fernando, your views, this is a very critical, this is going to disrupt a industry altogether. Insurance sector is going to go through. Yeah, please, your point.
Yeah, I think the insurance sector is one of the first sectors which is going to be impacted by the application of blockchain and smart contracts. Now, as Anu said, microinsurance is a really large field in terms of the application of blockchain in the microinsurance in the insurance sector. Now, the automatization of the operations with the smart contracts now is going to allow to insure things that before never were able to be insured. No, because for example, a small crop in a place in nowhere in the middle of a country. No, sometimes the cost to go there to check if the crop went past for a rain or whatever is higher than the main cost of the insurance. Then that kind of insurance are not allowed. Are not possible today. Microinsurance, blockchain can bring to this efficiency on the operations that is going to allow to ensure that field, so that people know, because you don't have to check the field itself. No, you can do it directly with a smart contract with the amount of rain who rains there. No, you refer the smart contract is a number of liters per hour are raining in your area. You get the insurance, you get the pay automatically. That is gonna. It's for me, it's one of the main areas that has a potential to be revolutionized, and as well have a social aspect. No, because these small farmers in the middle of nowhere sometimes cannot insure their crops at all.
Yeah, no? Yeah, I understand. I think
allowed to the social development of these people.
Yeah, I think Vikash will agree with us, our point of views. Otherwise, Vikash, you can able to really reach us to have more expert views on your question. Finally, one small question from Dr. N. Balaji, Dean, SIT, is asking whether Ethereum will be a suitable platform to train their engineering graduates. Anuj, I think this is your forte, and IBM Academy, and with the BIC also providing the training programs on blockchain at various levels. Dr. N. Balaji, Dean of SIT, is asking Ethereum would be a suitable platform for their students to understand blockchain.
Sure, and thank you, Balaji sir, for asking this question. So definitely, if you want to learn blockchain technology and practice smart contracts, Ethereum can be the starting point in order to do that, because for the simple reason, one, it is completely open source. Second, the tools that it uses, like Remix for developing the smart contract, Truffle for deploying the contracts, Ganache for simulating the blockchain, are very, very easy, and the college graduates can easily understand, adopt, and visualize the applications of blockchain technology in Ethereum. So Ethereum can be a very good starting point for a college graduate to learn blockchain technology. However, it should not stop at Ethereum. What I will also recommend is to train at least one permission network also to the students, so that they become more ready for the industry adoption. Because if they go to any industry, most of them will be using some kind of a permissioned or a private blockchain for development. So Ethereum absolutely is a very good, provides a very good solid foundation, but others like Quorum, Coda, Hyperledger Fabric, etc., are also good technologies for students to learn and get them industry ready.
Yeah, very good. See, basically, BIC also endeavors to provide training programs on blockchain from the primary level to advanced level, and we are also partnering with the industry leaders on subject matter expertise. So more information is available for the academic institutions and the framework of consulting on the blockchain. So I hope Dr. Balaji sir, probably your question has been addressed to an extent. If you need any further viewpoints, maybe you can reach out or shout us so that we will get back to you. I think with that, I thank all the participants and both the experts for sharing their valuable expertise and the time for being part of the BIC webinar series on blockchain. As we have indicated, we are also planning to have the blockchain series of webinar every month covering a topic. I think with that, I thank both Mr. Anuj Garg and Mr. Fernando for giving the consent and participating in this webinar. Thank you so very much, you gentlemen. And I also recognize the effort put in by Dave and his team. And similarly, all the participants, keep in touch and do let us know what topics you would like to know on the blockchain specifically, so that we can address in the forthcoming webinar series. Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.